the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 106, recorded Friday, August 30th, 2013. Texas road trip.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing. Scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright, and they have yet to kick me out of the building. I'm your host for this week. Thanks so much for joining us, downloading it, and or streaming with us. We have a couple of regulars and a couple of newbies, so gentlemen, be nice to the new people, please. George Tucker would be the old hat. His name is George Tucker, Tucker2s on anywhere, any sort of communication medium. He is an engineering coordinator for World Stage, but he's also the left half of my brain. How are you?
All right, thanks. That was quite the lengthy introduction.
I've been sugared up and caffeined. It's been one of those.
For a man who needs no introduction, let me go on for an hour.
You know what? The other guy who doesn't need an introduction is Bill Brown. Bill is the president and CEO of BD Brown Communications. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful, Tim.
A couple of the newbies. First of all, Jamie Trader is not new to our airways, but he is new to this show. Jamie is the technical resource director for AMX. He did grace us with his presence on this month's edition of State of Control, but this is his first time at bat on the weekly show. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
And last but not least, Charlie Jones. Charlie is the senior technical manager for SurgeX ESP. Welcome, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be on board.
Absolutely. This week, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. First of all, we're going to get into a little bit of IPTV. I've gotten a couple of pushback on when we talk about IPTV. Here's the way I see this, and I know the pushback I get is the fact that, well, that's kind of residential. It's residential, it's for home stuff, and yes, there's a slight truth to that, but I see it being more and more in the pro market every single month, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. A couple of things in the space of non-touchable or non-touching, I guess, control, and a really big camera with a really big resolution. But first, let's talk a little business, if we can, from the land of San Francisco and our buddy Rich Fregosa. There are I like the way that the San Francisco Business Journal puts this. Home tech firms for the super rich merge. And it just, this is just for you guys who make, 8 figures a year. Sort of, but not really.
Well, it goes with our aspirational economy, right? Everybody wants to think they fall in that category.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The guy that wrote the piece, Patrick Hogue, he puts in that this company starts out with a projected $75 million in revenue next year. That's not something to shake a stick at. Who it is you've got Engineered Environments, which is Randy Stearns, and Randy Stearns actually is the head of this new venture. Randy is the former head, the former chairman of CEDIA. But you've also got Paragon Technology Group, you've got DSI, you've got Cyber Sound and Security. You've got a number of these companies coming together. First of all, Jamie, let's actually kick it off with you. When it comes to mergers like this, from a business standpoint, whether it's pro or residential AV, and you guys looking at it as manufacturers, do you see this as a positive? Like, yeah, great. These companies are seeing the benefit of joining together, or is it, do you see it as circling the wagons and let's protect ourselves because we see rough seas ahead?
I honestly don't see it as either. I on a personal level, I kind of look at it as just, I guess just further evidence that the residential marketplace is transforming. I look at it that, we're in an app-driven, smart technology world right now, and it's eliminating kind of a lower market need for, kind of integration providers. And at the same time, it's driving up the need for this, this white glove, do it for me market service, provider marketplace. So to me, I look at what's happening there as positive because it's outlining that the marketplace is keeping up with the shift in technology, and it's, this residential conglomeration is doing the same thing that commercial saw, pretty much 20 years ago with this nationalization of talented service providers and firms and networks. So I don't see it as good or bad. I just see it as this is part of the transformation of the marketplace. And when you look at what residential integration firms used to be, 10, 20 years ago, there was no simple way to simplify the experience of your technology in your home. So anytime that you want to do something more than have a remote control for your satellite box and a remote control for your TV and a remote control for your Blu-ray, if you want to do anything besides that, you needed somebody to come in and help you do it. And now it's really just everyone has some kind of, every manufacturer is putting some kind of localizable control via an iOS device or whatever. So for me to open up my iPhone or my Android tablet or whatever, open up an app and control that device, task over to another app and control right there. I've kind of simplified that. So really it's just redefined the marketplace, and it's redefined this value position for, guys to go in and actually really cater to those guys that are saying, look, I don't care that it's easy to do with individual apps. I still want somebody to come in and provide me a really custom, sincerely unique experience for myself. So not good or bad.
When you say this is kind of a transformation of the marketplace, do you mean the fact that this is where we're going with bigger and not more complex, but just bigger companies, bigger integrators?
Well,
no.
Not in. let me pause on that one for a second. Not as a wholesale answer. I don't think that's everyone's got to be a big, large conglomerate. I mean, it's a trend that when technology gets simpler to use and it becomes more commoditized and it becomes when children grow up with automation and children grow up with technology, and then they start to buy their own homes and they start to have different levels of expectation for how they manage their house, they adopt some of those technology pains themselves, and it just establishes that the new service model is focused on something a little bit different. Instead of the service model being coming in and simplifying certain types of experiences, the service model now becomes about concierge service, concierge lifestyle automation, not so much technology automation. So I don't think it's so much that what's transforming is the size of the business. I think it's just evidence of the reality of technology automation being kind of less important than the actual service and the personalization automation, the customization behind that, the human factor, if you will.
Yeah.
But the fact that some of these guys have come together and are forming a strong national presence, I just think is a very natural migration as these technology things change.
George, it's interesting that Jamie used the word concierge because our buddy Rich Fregosa, who is geographically centered around this new company, calls himself a digital concierge. So, is that kind of what these guys are doing, where they're giving themselves, all of the great tools that each of these companies individually possessed, and they're positioning themselves in the market to where they can be that concierge to the stars?
Yeah, I suppose so. I've had two thoughts on this when I was reading about it, and that one, this is the second major one we've heard of in less than 2 months.
A month, yeah.
In less than a month. That's right. It was a month. And while that could be, there's a lot of people who will lose some aspect of their work there because you can't have that concierge where everybody overlaps. As nice as that is, I don't think that's going to happen. So you're going to watch a little bit of a purge. And again, I base this on what I saw happen in the event staging world all those years ago, where they went to go, we have to have this consortium and we're going to go from coast to coast, and then they sort of peeled away people and the culture in each one died and they died.
Charlie, from a manufacturer standpoint, how do you guys? I mean, do do you worry about stuff like this, or is this one of the things where, let's say that there's 10 people that come together, and one or two of them are integrators who have deals with you? Do you say, okay, now you all have them, or is it one of those things where you have to pick and choose who your end users are?
It can be a little bit of both. I agree with Jamie in what he was saying, in that the industry as a whole is definitely ripe for a certain amount of consolidation. And with that, like you were saying, Tim, inevitably from a manufacturing side, some people are going to be included and they're going to see a huge boom. The other side of it, of course, is that some guys aren't going to make the cut, right? So as a manufacturer, you're always looking to make sure that you're on the A team, that you've got a couple guys in there that are happy with your product, and then more importantly, it does force us as a manufacturer to make sure that we are delivering the products that the marketplace really needs. You might be able to find a guy in every town that thinks you're just a really fun guy to play golf with, and therefore he buys your products. But as things consolidate, and now there's fewer and fewer of those guys, you got to make sure that you're bringing what the market really needs. The flip side of it being that I do think that you're seeing some of this consolidation just due to a certain amount of the commoditization that we've seen in the AV industry, both residential and commercial. Products that used to be a little more protected, or things that they needed us to come set it up for them, if you will. Now there's an app for that, right? And so I think a lot of these companies are getting bigger so that they can maybe get a little bit better deal to protect some of their margins and things from the manufacturers themselves.
Very good. Bill, how do you see this merger coming through? Obviously, you're on the opposite coast, but how do you see this merger going through?
I think that there is. We talked about the convergence that has been going on for a number of years, and I think where the two cultures that are coming together with IT and AV, I think this merger represents a more of a collaboration and a connection. And how we form those collaborations and connections, either through mergers or through virtual connections, or as was mentioned before in the staging, how they tried earlier with the networks or something to kind of get things moving. And I think the other challenge is communicating that clear message of why we're getting together, or what do we need to do to keep the culture of our individual business cases or our companies. I think in order for us to really be an industry of professionals that take care of not just people at their businesses, but at their homes too, we are going to have to come together. We're going to see more of these mergers or things where people are coming together to make sure we're covering all of our bases.
That makes sense. Absolutely, that makes sense. From Gizmodo, this I just like this one. It is a 64:9 ultra wide camera. I said 64 by 9. It's bigger than 60. Actually, we should call this like the new UHD TV, the ultra high definition, ultra wide. The way that Gizmodo puts it is you can capture an entire sporting event at once. George, is this just a cool little gimmick that Panasonic's putting out here, or is this a useful tool?
Well, like anything else, I think that's to be determined. But it does look like they have the rig down. I mean, they said the same thing about I forget what they call the camera that flies over.
The X-Cam.
The X-Cam, yeah, that flies over everything. That was just a special effect. It would go away when the NFL or the XFL went away. Yeah. But of course, who incorporated the NFL? I could see this having very big uses with any of those widescreen and some of those, specialized IMAX at home type broadcasts. But I think this would do better than 3D or any of the other stuff they've been talking about. This would be a real home theater experience.
Wait. You think this is going to do as good as 3D? That's not
better.
saying much.
I said better.
And that's even worse. You think this is going to do better than 3D?
And I've yet to see it happen. Well, I mean, you can laugh, but I've yet to see an actual image, and that would basically tell us a whole lot.
Yeah.
But having 64 by 9 and being able to see in the entire football field in one motion, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I'm with you, George, on that one. I don't think it's going to be something where this is going to revolutionize tomorrow. We're not going to see everybody running down to Best Buy and trying to, or going online and trying to order this for their own sports venues or whatever. But I can't help, and I hate to cut you out there, but I think it's a great point to compare it to 3D and think about the user experience behind what they're describing with this camera system, along with, that Samsung 55-inch monster curvy telly. This is really another stepping stone towards this high-end consumer immersion experience. In the commercial space, we've been doing immersion for a long time now, and all of a sudden to take walk into a projected environment where I've got 160 degrees of monitors in front of me, where I'm not having to put funky glasses on. I just get to walk into a room and be surrounded. This is a very real thing. I mean, it's lazier and it's more enjoyable, and I think those are very successful factors for technology adoption.
That's a very good point. Go ahead.
The part that's coolest to me, to be honest, is beyond the 88-pound rig that's got these 4 cameras all mounted into it, which I definitely recommend Googling. It's pretty impressive to look at. But the little byline here of custom software used to seamlessly blend the transition between neighboring shots. That to me actually is the coolest part of it all, because now 4x4 is just a starting point. If somebody wants to do some sort of super duper IMAX with 18 cameras, it sounds like somebody's at least starting to work that way with the software to be able to, in real time or near real time, edge blend these all together into a seamless high definition picture, which I think the possibilities there go above and beyond maybe just sporting events.
Well, and Bill, like actually all three of them had talked about this is, and I have to admit, I saw this and I kind of chuckled, but based on what all three of you guys are saying, I like the immersive technology part about this. Bill, do you think that this is something that could be started integrated, whether it's a sporting event or maybe Department of Defense, training or something of that nature?
I think it caught me kind of odd in the sense that there's two things. When you look at what's going on in since it's football season now,
yes.
And the biggest challenge that they have to getting people into stadiums is the experience that you have watching this somewhere else. And now if you bring this aspect that it's almost like being there, it's like, well, wait a minute. Is it really almost? Is it almost too much information around you, and you're kind of distracted by it goes from cool to being distracting. And so is the sporting environment the best environment for this to be in? And I would question that with all of the other challenges that live sports or professional sports have. I think in some cases in hockey, I would love to see everything that's going on and kind of this organized mob that's going on, and things that are just happening so fast you think you're going to miss something. But I just think there is another application that we are not aware of that this would do better in than in the sporting. And that was just my initial gut after looking at it and really listening to some of the discussions about the experience of watching sports outside of the arenas and stadium.
Well, and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I have to say that with your example of the hockey, for true hockey fans, that's actually the truth. I wasn't going to mention hockey because most people don't want to talk about it, but most hockey fans don't watch where the actual puck is. We're watching to the side. You're watching the crease. Yeah. This would give you that experience, par excellence. And
now,
I still
guys,
feel like
let's be honest. We know it's going to show up first and foremost at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Jerry Jones has probably already got 4 of these on order.
Yeah. Don't disappoint me on this, would you please? Just once, can we have it first? Come on. Although I have to say, the first thought that came into my mind after listening to Jamie speak was 3D to me seemed like a solution looking for a problem, and this looks like it's a value added. And I don't know if that makes a hell of a lot of sense, but it really does feel like that to me.
Well, it does. I mean, whether it's hockey, I mean, I'll talk about hockey or football all day long with anybody actually. Yes, the fact that Jerry Jones has the world's biggest whatever, whatever. I'm not going to get into a football fight with a Texan on the line. So since I'll probably be watching somebody else playing my playoffs this year instead of my beloved Bears. But hockey, George, you and I had the same thought because you're right. We don't watch. Yes, you watch the puck, but you also watch everything else that's going on. Both the entire breadth of the ice. Plus, what was a month or so ago, the whole you can buy an IMAX theater for your home thing came out, and it was over $1 million. I don't remember what it was. Definitely not in my price range. But I can see that coupled with this camera giving you an incredible immersive experience. So can you imagine the Super Bowl party at somebody's house? No one I know, but a company like the first one we talked about, the Via International, putting this in someone's house where you can see the entire stadium in one swath. So yeah, it is kind of neat. Now that I'm sitting here and think about it.
And by the way, guys, the new Reliant Stadium board is even bigger than the Cowboys. So the Texans have that going for them.
But everything's bigger in Texas, Charlie.
Right.
Regardless of what we're so yeah, one's at Dallas Stadium and one's at the Texans, but they're both in Texas. So
sounds like a road trip.
It does. That would not be a half bad idea. They got to play the Bears or something. That's just me. Moving along, let's talk about touch for a second, shall we? Or touchless. I'm not quite sure what to. You can't call it touch anymore because the stories we're going to talk about actually ask you to refrain from touching. Both Intel and has a line of products that they're starting to release, and another company called Area has this LED lamp that recognizes your gestures. And here's the thing: both with the new enhanced Connect on the Microsoft One that's coming out, and you've got the fact that people have been hacking Connects for years. You can have a Connect for Windows and do different things with computing where you don't have to touch. And I know we've talked on this show at least more than once about having gestures being the home automation control. Charlie, we'll start with you, and just a real basic question. Where are we in the maturing of this whole touchless space?
I got to say that we're not quite there yet. And this is speaking from a guy that has a touchless trash can that I curse at least 4 times a day. Nice. Because you're supposed to just wave your hand over it, right, and it opens up. The touch LEDs, or the touchless LEDs, like you said, or the touchless interfaces, whether it's through your Connect or even some of the gesture-based things. Right now they all seem to be honest, more of a proof of concept than something that anybody says, I've got to have that. It changes the way that I work every day of my life. There may be a market, there may be an opportunity for people that perhaps are disabled in some way. But from a manufacturing standpoint, and I'm sure Jamie would agree from a control standpoint, a lot of these things, by removing normal traditional interfaces, while it increases the wow factor, becomes a nightmare in terms of trying to make it play well with others.
Jamie, from a manufacturer standpoint, would you agree with that?
I would. I guess I have to throw out the proverbial ditto that. That's
this is not Rush Limbaugh. Thank you. Sorry, I had to.
It's what do we really gain from that? To me, I think it's kind of analogous to like motion sensing faucets. It's you walk up and there's a very specific device that you're supposed to generate a very specific body motion for. You're a little bit clumsy with it because you don't know. Am I supposed to wave this fast? Am I supposed to gesture slow? Should I do it this deliberate? Should I go up? Should I go down? And so it's a little bit that the human factor behind it is still clunky. There's no uniform standard of what is the gesture that should elicit something. So, Charlie nails it right on the head. It's it doesn't transform the way we get things done. And so it's either going to sit there in a mode of satisfying the purpose of what a motion sensing faucet does, which is just enhance hygiene in public spaces, or it's just going to be something that's kind of neat for people who are technologists at heart and love to do neat things. But it's a new type of remote control. It's a new switch. It's a new interface.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. George.
Yes.
Gesturing and controlling things. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, we really have been talking about touchless controls for a couple of years, at least on this show. Where are we really in this space?
I think, like was just stated, a lot of desire, a lot of anticipation, but not much on the practical side yet. There's a lot of hackers who say, yes, I can make it work. And in a lot of ways, this reminds me of how people feel about Linux or Ubuntu or any of those things. I'm probably mispronouncing it at the moment. In that they're great. We love what they're doing. We want them the way they are, but we spend more time trying to make them work than actually working with them. And that's sort of was my feeling when we first talked about some of this stuff about a year ago, where I said I wasn't a gesture in the old I'm not an animal vein. I still think there's a lot to go on. I've watched people at these trade shows try to use these things in the trade show environments, and they're waving around, and again, I've compared it to Semi-4. They're flapping the flags around trying to get the thing to react. For some things, I think it would work, like the lights. When there's a light system that we have a detail on where you can put your hand underneath and make it say graduated lighting gets brighter or dimmer, I think that works perfectly. When you're starting to talk about turning the lights on and off, or the TV channel changing, or changing the temperature, I don't know. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm an old curmudgeon and the kids will laugh at me 5 years from now, but again, I'm seeing more potential than reality.
You're a curmudgeon, and I will laugh at you 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Bill,
laughing at me now. I mean,
that's true. Bill, okay, so there's a general consensus that we are long on promise, short on real practical applications. So where do we go from here as far as this touchless interface?
I think bring it to the technology center, and I think
very nice, very well done.
The exciting thing about the one component of the technology center that is regional and based is that bring cool stuff that you don't know what to do with it. Have a focus group on it. Have some end users in. Have different markets to say, hey, this is the technology that's available. This is what we were planning to use it. How would you use this in your current environment? Because I think the technology industry does a good job of creating great things and showing people the benefits and the bells and whistles, but does a poor job of implementing the technology into an organization. So people get all excited about something and have these high expectations, and then once that cools down, it's like, what the heck did I just do? But once you spent that technology dollar, it's gone. So having an environment where it is instead of a large trade show floor, have a small, more intimate kind of environment, and bring in different people to look at it and kind of put it through its paces and kind of move it along. You get the I guess the word on the street or something, and then help people allow the technology to advance instead of just technology that is just solving a problem right now. Where is the technology taking us instead of what do I need right now to stay on? So bring it to the technology center. We'll kick the tires and show people how it can best work into their environment.
Real quickly, explain to people what the technology center is and where it is.
The technology center, the first technology center, is in what is called the Piedmont Triad of North Carolina. It's the combination of Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. And the Technology Center is a 13,000 square foot building with an 8,000 square foot trade show floor and stage that's designed to basically connect the manufacturers to end users. It is market-driven and end-user-centric facility, and I think that's where we miss it in our industry. And I think we have trade shows like Infocom and road shows that will connect dealers and tech directors that really doesn't get down past the technologists, and then we wonder why it's a hard sell in different places. So having a technology in manufacturing that will bring the AV people to the table and have those conversations about smart buildings, having technology in healthcare, and that can bring people that do healthcare well, integrators and manufacturers that do that market well, but other integrators that want to get into that area can come to the Technology Center and learn about how to get into there. And I think we don't do a good job, and I want to fill in that gap or create that bridge for us to be the technology professionals that I think our industry and a number of different markets need us to be.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to see some of the stuff that Bill was putting together in Orlando during Infocom, and I actually wish that I lived closer because it's kind of a cool thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
You are listening to AV Week. That gentleman right there is Bill Brown from BD Brown Communications. George Tucker is here from World Stage. Jamie Trader from deep in the heart of Texas. He's from AMX. And Charlie Jones from SurgeX. I'm just going to do all kinds of football stuff today because it's almost time. By the way, how are your Cowboys doing?
Who are you referring to as your Cowboys?
Well, you're in Texas, so I shouldn't have assumed that. Are you Texans or are you Cowboys?
It's even worse. I have to choose the Texans because I'm actually from Denver, and so I've followed my Kubiak over to the Texans. But
good.
I'm still a Bronco at heart. So
there's nothing wrong with that. God, I'm just outside of St. Louis, and I'm still a Bear fan. So God help us all. Anyhow, all right. Moving on. Let's chat a bit about IPTV for a second here. We have a number of stories. First of all, it's an opinion piece about what it's going to take for Apple to get into that space. The author of that says ESPN, which I don't necessarily discredit that. I would give them three more letters, and that's NFL. Just because I think once the NFL starts getting into that space on a more serious level, and when I say serious level, the level that Major League Baseball is, and baseball, when it comes to IPTV, I think they have it over all of the other major sports, over NHL and the NBA and the NFL, because for one flat rate, you can watch any game anytime on a handful of devices, and it's not a cheap rate. It's not like $20. It's $150, I think, last time I checked, for the entire season. But still, it's a considerable jump from being able to watch a football game after the fact, which is kind of where the NFL is stuck right now. And I understand there are contractual reasons for all that. Google also says that they're bringing back some of the local content that they apparently lost in a firmware upgrade, because it's not a bug, it's a feature, which I love. That was for Jamie, because
thank you very much.
All control manufacturers love you to upgrade their firmware. And then Kevin Spacey is like the new poster child for IPV TV, because the holy cow success of House of Cards, which you can only watch if you have Netflix, because that's the only place it is. And you also have the last season of Arrested Development on Netflix, and Orange is the New Black, which is an incredible success. Again, the only place you can watch it is on Netflix. George, the reason I'm actually bringing it up this week, and because there's a whole lot of stories. But first of all, the question comes to you first. How soon should we, both in Pro AV and in residential AV, begin to integrate this and begin to concern ourselves with IPTV?
Well, I think it's now, and personally, although I think you're going to see the Chromecast and those guys actually edge out any kind of other player in the market because they're just going to be there. And I think they've got the mojo, as it were, to get the clientele in because it's an off-the-shelf product. I think the future is there, but I don't think it's very long for the integration world. I hate to say it. That's my personal opinion. As it becomes an off-the-shelf product, even with the crowded airspace, I think we're being edged out on that lane.
Do you think there's anything we can do from an integrator standpoint to, go back to the very first story, give them a white glove or give them a concierge experience with whether it's Chromecast or whatever?
I'm sure that services do help a lot. Absolutely. Making sure that their frequency set is where they should be, or that the house is in a way that's shielded so that you can do that. And I'm sure I'm not mentioning 1,000 things that Fergosa would jump all over me about, saying it can't be automagically. That's Richard, automagically Fergosa.
He should trademark.
I know. He should trademark that. Oh, let me write that down. Anyway, there's a lot to be added, absolutely. But I think there are certain margins and certain things that we're just not going to be able to do as the primary profit center, or saying I can make good margins on that, because you're just not going to be able to. And maybe certain areas where you can't really do this, there'll be added features and things that you can still do. But I'm doubtful of it. I really am, because I know from my experience, I'm looking at it to say, man, if I could get that in that arrow, I'd be a happy man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Tim,
Yes.
you hit the nail on the head, and one of the problems of tying these in with larger integration systems is exactly what you said about Google pushed out a firmware update and it broke something. These are the kind of things that can be minor annoyances, but then as more and more people cut the cord, if you will, it's not a minor annoyance anymore when your 5-year-old is, throwing a temper tantrum and your 3-year-old screaming their head off because they can't watch Barney or whatever it is the kids watch these days. The problem is it's still a very immature technology. Google and Roku and TiVo and all these guys are trying to win the feature spec fight and add more and more features. And unfortunately, the one thing that tends to get tossed to the wayside sometimes is the quality control. And I know that some of the integrators that I deal with, they're very apprehensive of that. At the end of the day, what the customer really thinks of when it comes to recommending their company or not is how was their experience? How is their experience every time they pick up the remote? And if, yes, the remote's programmed great, the AMX system's rock solid, you got that magic SurgeX stuff, so your power's good, but meanwhile Google pushed out a firmware update and it broke everything, or Apple or any of them, the customer doesn't draw that distinction. They bought it from Bob's AV. They're going to call Bob's AV and they're going to be upset with Bob's AV.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question, Mr. Trader. From a manufacturer standpoint, you guys are heavily involved in not just control, but you're also have been for a number of years into high-definition video over twisted pair, over fiber, over a number of different things. And it's not just you guys, there are other ones as well. From a manufacturer standpoint, what can you do to help along this market when it comes to the cord cutters and IPTV? Why do I keep saying that? IPTV.
What can we do to help it? I think some of the help is just in applying it in the right places. The marketplace is changing around us. There's, we're in a marketplace where video is everywhere. This is one of our speaking points from last week was, video is absolutely, there's more online video being viewed today than you can even wrap your mind around. And all you really have to do to understand the marketplace is look at your teenagers and watch how they access their entertainment and what they consider as entertainment. And when you recognize that what they consider to be entertainment and content is video and things from the cloud, you can't deny that IPTV is where the natural migration of all video delivery systems are. are, and kind of to Kevin Spacey's point, there's no difference between watching House of Cards on Netflix on your computer versus watching YouTube on your TV. It's about story and it's about content, and the easiest delivery mechanism is on an IP network. So from a manufacturing perspective, we don't go in and try to sell to the marketplace IPTV as a solution that solves every problem, because guess what? There's still human interaction with analog and digital static devices today. People still create content on physical devices. They still have to walk around, and there's still a human emotional need to plug in this thing that they've created something on and plug it in and have that route up to a TV. So the responsible current manufacturing trend is to make sure that you accommodate everybody's passions and accommodate all the devices that still exist. And a lot of the stuff that you see AMX producing is focused on getting things to the cloud, getting things over an IP network, but still making sure that digital content, and by digital I mean like HDMI and DVI delivered material as well as analog material, all flow through through a campus, through a home, whatever. And we kind of look at it first from just individual spaces first, and we say that most people walk into a room and they're going to interact with something physical, and that room is going to interact with the cloud. So first I need to provide connectivity for analog and digital devices in the room, and that room should be able to virtualize itself to the cloud based on who I am when I walk into that space. So there's a little bit of hybrid, and that's what manufacturers should be doing, is making sure that they're providing a safe path towards that future. You look at what happened with Google and that Chromecast. Well, if you dig down into their data with Aircast, basically, he basically says outright, hey, I reverse engineered the protocols and I wasn't using Google's SDK. And then he acts surprised when they make a change and all of a sudden his reverse engineered solution doesn't work. Well, they haven't published an SDK. They're in a preliminary preview, a developer preview stage of it. And, of course, really manufacturers have to develop strong partnerships and develop strong APIs that make them interoperable. They have to publish them, and then they have to stick to them. But really, by publishing these SDKs, previewing them, and then only really worrying about people conforming to those SDKs, that ensures a positive experience. It's kind of like trying to follow what Apple did with a closed system of experiences. They're a closed set of experiences because they want, or a closed set of communications, if you will, because they're trying to guarantee an experience. Well, not everyone wants to be a closed system, but the next closest thing they can do is publish a very tightly specified SDK, publish it, and then stick to it. So, someone coming in and reverse engineering a protocol, that's not a good partnership with them. And I think that's where, as manufacturers, we just need to be firm in saying, this is how you interact with us, and we'll stick to this, and you stick to that.
Could you, and I'm asking that, I'm not a hacker, I'm not smart enough to be a hacker, but could you not, as a manufacturer, take something that someone has reverse engineered, like this gentleman did, and take that as almost like a strong suggestion or a leading edge for you to say, you know what, this is something cool that this person did. Yes, they broke the SDK. Yes, they broke the agreement. Yes, I get that. But hey, it's cool nonetheless, and we should maybe take that and run with it.
There's always that factor. Obviously, there's the great things about standards in the world is that there's so many of them to choose from.
Amen.
And as you look at all sorts of different manufacturing models, people will generate a ton of different attempts at a standard or at a set schema, and really a lot of manufacturing practice comes down to best adopted use. So I think it's inherently natural to say, well, is what he did with Aircast, is that something that scales into our larger plans? I would suggest that Google looked at it and they may have evaluated a piece of that, and they may have even adopted certain elements of it, but at the end of the day, they're responsible for branding and delivering an experience that is not only homogeneous, but nice across all their different products and all their different marketplaces. So assuredly they've got a larger vision of where that plugs into than just what Dutta was focused on when he basically examined the protocols as they existed today. He looked at a current something and decided that he would implement that something today, but he really doesn't know, being on the outside in a different company, he doesn't know what their overall strategy and trajectory is. So they may have adopted pieces of it, and that may be part of the SDK today, but even if only one piece of it is different, it don't work,
No, it makes it. Go ahead.
And remember, kids, if your favorite feature gets discontinued, blame either the accountants or the lawyers, because the engineers are usually on your side. We understand why you want it, but it's not our fault it's not there anymore.
Says the senior technical manager.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Real quick, go ahead.
Tim, I was thinking of in these emerging technologies, creating an environment where it's a safe, we talk about standards and everything, but an open environment where you can have those growing pains, or because when I do a talk about safety and on the network safety and anything, gone are the days where you just have to protect your network from your own employees and what you think that will harm your little small environment to, there are just people looking to crack your system, do something different just because.
Yeah.
And so if we can find a way to create an environment that, okay, this is the emerging technology, these are the parameters, these are the standards. It's a wide open tunnel, let's just say, but have at it. But where a firmware update is not going to shut this portion of it down or anything like that. And so it's just that type of thing that you want to not have these high expectations of something and say, hey, this is great, this is wonderful, let's go, and then, oh crap, now this doesn't work. I shouldn't have got involved in this too early. It's like I've been duped, and then let's wait until they fix it and to get back. And so how can we kind of model something forward to really understand the I guess the climate that we're in, and really try to move forward with things.
No, absolutely. Real quickly before we move on to the next story, Jamie, I have a great idea, and if you come out with it, I'll just secretly know that it was my idea. You ready? The Innova IPTV. Yeah, send an email to Sean Robinson right now.
Hey, were you already talking to Sean?
No. Did you? Why? Do you have something like that?
He can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh, seriously?
Before you.
Now I am going to have to talk to Sean.
I think one thing to not get lost in all this, though, and everybody likes to get excited about talking about cutting the cord because we all hate our cable company something fierce because we feel like we're paying out the butt for things that we don't really use all of. But at the end of the day, all this change is forcing the cable companies. Whether it's Comcast buying up NBC so they can get more on the content side, or Time Warner trying to get their cost in line. It is being an instrument for change, and so I don't think that at the end of the day we're going to end up with 50% of America having cut the cord, but I think that that the 75% of us that don't cut the cord are going to end up with a much better experience and with a product that we really do appreciate and value more than the current cable experience with its clunky DVRs and all that kind of good stuff.
Right, I agree.
Those Motorola DVRs are fine pieces of machinery.
Hey, it's Cisco now. Cisco or nothing.
Who do I have? I have Charter, so I either have Scientific Atlantic or
Cisco bought Scientific Atlantic.
Did they?
Yeah, it's Motorola or Cisco.
Or Cisco,
now.
now. Great.
But don't worry, the old Scientific Atlanta, now new Cisco, they suck either way, regardless of what's written on the front.
Who haven't they bought?
The conversation we had earlier about the new firmware changes things. Yeah. You only don't believe that that's not a problem unless you've had a Scientific Atlanta box, because every week something's wrong with the thing.
Jeez. Poor guys. And now
And inevitably, that's the week you're not home to fix it.
Exactly. And your wife is calling you and yelling at you because she can't get something to work. And then you walk in and it magically just,
Or at midnight when you go to change the channel and want to look at the guide and it just freezes up for about 2 minutes as it loads new data.
George, you know exactly what channel you're trying to go to at midnight. You don't need to hit
Wow. Okay, moving on. The Samsung Galaxy Gear may ignite smartwatch wars next week. Wow. Yeah. I got nothing on this one. I shouldn't say that. Here's the thing. There are patent applications. There are fake screenshots running around, not only just from Samsung, but also from the Apple camp. Bill, we'll start with you, and then we'll let you guys go enjoy your nice long Labor Day weekend. Are we anywhere near this smartwatch thing? And if so, should we in AV be watching it for kind of where the tablet took us as far as control? Could this take us to the next step of control, the whole smartwatch thing?
No, I stopped wearing a watch. It's kind of funny in Texas because I was doing a lot of shows.
Jamie's fault.
It's
So
Jamie's fault.
the Eastern Standard Time and Central Time, I was always an hour off. So I said, okay, no more watches. But I think it's more than a couple years away. I think there's going to be, a push, the cool factor. Apple will make it really cool. We'll get people, standing in line and kind of do that, and then everybody will just stop and sit back. But I just really, I'm trying not to be the old guy dad hat.
That's George's job.
Right?
I am the Scoble of this group.
Right?
Nice.
I'm sorry, wrong role. But it's just like, why? And here we go, and so I think we're some time away from it, and even with Apple and Samsung trying to kind of force the envelope on it.
Okay.
I have to admit, I was kind of with Bill on the why until I took the wife and kids to Mickey Mouse Land or Mickey Mouse World, unfortunately. But we got selected to beta test these new what they're calling Magic Bands. Basically, they're RFID wristbands.
Okay.
And the neat thing was the RFID wristband not only replaced your need for a room key, it also you could put charging privileges on it, and it tied in with all their whole little fast pass system, so that you could get priority access to the rides, and it was a really nice experience because now there was only one thing that I needed to be able to do everything in the park, and it got my mind wondering to whereas if I could also have my email, on some sort of small, easily worn device, at that point, yeah, we really would have that final synergy that we've been chasing by the fact that we all probably carry an iPhone and an iPad and a laptop with us, all because each of them has its strengths and its weaknesses. And whoever can figure out how to make it small, probably flexible to make it more comfortable, with some decent battery life, I think, like you said, Bill, I think it's going to be somebody like Apple that behind the scenes work out the details with whether it's RFID or near field technologies. But I think that it's a huge potential, and then we just need Jamie to make an app for it to control our control systems, and at that point we're done.
And isn't it ironic? It all comes back to a wristwatch, which I'm like a lot of people. I don't hardly wear one anymore because I have my cell phone. Jamie, speaking of that, not just the app, but where do you think we're going with this? Is this something we should keep our eye on?
Well, I absolutely think so. I don't think it's. I mean, if you look at the way they're touting it right now, they're calling it a concept device, a wearable concept device, and I think there's a race to show that Apple's not the only innovative company in the marketplace. So there's the race, race to get it done. Or race to get something out in the market, but I kind of tend to look at the rumors of them being, more of a smartphone companion in their early iteration. That they're going to be focused on delivering things like push notifications, the tweets, the texts, maybe being a mic, a speaker, a camera, something in them. But the long and short of them is I can't help but feel like they're going to be introduced as companions to your smartphone or your smart device. And in doing so, I mean, then it's a matter of evaluating how well will they take advantage of that. There's going to be manufacturers who have proven track records of delivering less amount of features, but that are truly focused on solving human problems. And by problems, I don't mean like real problems. I mean they help people be lazier, and those are going to be the successful ones that are out there, right? And kind of going back to the kids thing, if you watch how kids, communicate with one another, and how people are right now, it's kids want to say a lot. They don't want to listen as much, but they want to get their thoughts tweeted out into the world, and they want to have a lot of one-way dialogue. So when I'm looking at the fact that a watch is going to give me access to see my texts and tweets, I think it'll be neat, and it'll have kind of a fun something to it. But until that watch gives me the ability to broadcast out my own opinions and my own thoughts to this culture of kids that want to push their thoughts out into the world, we'll see.
And until it becomes some sort of broadcast device, you're right.
Right.
Instead of a listening device. Senor Tucker, that you got the last word on this one. Where are we at with this?
I think it's a Dick Tracy special, and it will automatically have that ability. It's going to do it. It's going to have Wi-Fi built in. It's going to have RFID or NFC. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, look, Google Glass is a concept device, and it's exploding. I think this is a companion device. Not nearly as big as they show it in the drawings. It's a little bulky for our age, but I think if they can get it down to a reasonable size, you'll see people doing it for automation, for all this stuff, and it will be the voice to text or that, what's the infrared keyboard that you can do on a desk and you can type away.
Well, that's been around for years. I mean, I used to have a Palm device that did that.
Yeah, so they're going to have something like that. I think this is a brilliant thing. I don't wear a watch. I would buy it.
Well, and here's the other thing. You mentioned the RFID and the NFC. I don't remember which episode, good Lord, but you were talking about at one time an automation system that could sense who you were and where you were and how fast you were walking, and turning on and off lights. And if you were walking fast enough to where you didn't need the overheads, it just turned on the foot lamps. Something like that could absolutely tie into RFID and NFC.
Yes.
So yeah,
that's exactly. I actually have that on my notes. Like, yes, remind them about that.
Yeah. See? And actually, my brother-in-law wears watches that big, so he would totally buy this. So. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. With us has been. Let's go with the newbies here first. First up, Charlie Jones. He's been with us. He's from SurgeX. He's the senior technical manager. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you letting me part of the and the fun and the hijinks this afternoon.
Absolutely. Where can people find you or find SurgeX?
Absolutely. SurgeX is all over the place. SurgeX.com. We're on Twitter at SurgeXAV or Facebook.com/SurgeX.
Very good. Also, Mr. Jamie Trader. Jamie is the Technical Resource Director for AMX. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a bunch for getting me in again. I love having these conversations. You can definitely follow us on Facebook at AMX Talk. And that's where you can keep up with what we're doing around the world, as well as keep up with us on Facebook at AMX University and keep up with access to knowledge.
Very good. Also, William B.D. Brown. Bill Brown is the president and CEO of B.D. Brown Communications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And where can people find about you and also the Technology Center?
The Technology Center and me are on Facebook. You can Technology Center of the Piedmont Triad on Facebook. BD Brown Communications on Facebook. BDBrown.com website and Zero Geek Speak on Twitter.
Very good. And last but not least, Mr. George Tucker. Where can people find you, sir?
If it's a social media, it's Tucker2s.
and also TypePad.
Yes, that's basically social media.
It is? Yeah, I guess so. All right. If you want to follow me, it is TD, Tim David Albright, ALBRIGHT. I don't play the trombone, so that's not me. There's actually a jazz trombonist named Tim Albright, so Anyhow. But yeah, TD Albright on Twitter and other stuff. But more importantly for me and everybody here, go by the website if you would, please. The fine web minions who run our website have been working feverishly. They tell me by 2020 or 2025 we should have a new website. So, keep up with it.
It's good to have goals.
AVNation.tv. I'm gonna get a nasty letter for that one.
Yeah, you are.
AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll hear this episode, this very podcast. Our education show, we have one on control programmers called and control systems called State of Control, AV Social, and 2 brand spanking new ones, thanks to the fine work of George Tucker and some really smart people when it comes to projectors. One is called Pico Prospective. It's about the Pico projector market, and also Projection Freaks. So check the Projection Freak. So check that out if you would. AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.